Hello everybody, it's Eric with the Film Photography channel, and today's review is going to be on the Kodak Retina IIc. Okay, so this little guy, this little camera is made by Kodak. It's their Retina line of 35 millimeter folding compact cameras. Now, a lot of cameras of this time, of this era, were uh, more like medium format cameras. This actually was a 35 millimeter. There was a few other 35 millimeter folders because the folding form factor was really popular. This camera was built from in the 1950s. Let's see, from 1954 through 1958. So that's not a huge run. But they came out with subsequent models. Like this is the 2C, and the 3C was a little bit larger than this, and it had a meter. So you know they continually improved. This is actually a system camera, which is a little unusual. Okay, and by the system camera I mean that this camera actually had a lot of accessories available for it. For example, different lenses. You had some wide angle. This is actually a removable lens, which I don't think I've ever seen that on a folding camera. And it's a Schneider Kreuznach lens, and that is what they sold in the U.S. was the Schneider lenses. It's a Xenon, Xenon, Xenon Schneider Kreuznach's a German lens. That's what they sold in the U.S. Overseas, they sold Rodenstock lenses. Okay, so in the U.S., more than likely you're going to find it with the Schneider lens, which is, you know, they make great optics. They're really good lenses. Just to go over the body a little bit with you, it's a coupled rangefinder, which means that the focusing mechanism that's generated here through this window, it's all you can do all your focusing through one window. Okay, that's basically what I mean by coupled. There's some older cameras that you had to actually focus through one window and then compose your photo through the other window. And if you look back here, there's only the one window to peep through. Some of the older cameras, like the Leica 3 series, they had a separate window to compose, and then to focus, and another window to shoot and compose your photo. But yeah, and just speaking of the focusing mechanism, this has a nice bright rangefinder patch, which is always nice. It's a good size patch. It's actually a little unique because it's diamond shaped, and I don't know if you can actually see right there. There's like a diamond there in the middle. Okay, so that projects a diamond shaped focusing patch in the center of the viewfinder window. So anyway, but it's nice and bright, and it's a good size, so it's really easy to focus it. The rangefinder patch is, although the viewfinder itself is not that bright and not that big, but the rangefinder patch, the focusing patch actually is, which is a bonus. I mean, when you look through here, it's not a huge, it's not a huge rangefinder, but it's certainly not the smallest, from cameras of this era. It's, and it's fine during the daylight. If you're taking pictures indoors with this camera, it's a little bit more of a challenge because it's not the brightest viewfinder, but focusing is easy indoors or outdoors. Okay, this wheel up top, this is your film reminder wheel, or there's a indicator for infrared, film, plus X, super 22, Kodachrome -A, it says. Anyway, it's just that because this camera doesn't have a light meter built in, so this is just purely to kind of remind you of what's in there, what kind of film is in there. And I just want to mention while I'm going here, the quality of the construction of this thing is just phenomenal. I mean, this is a 1950s era camera, and I will tell you that the materials used here have held up so well. There's no fraying, there's no signs of wear at all. I mean, like on the external vulcanite, it's just gorgeous. I mean, the brass top and bottom, or the brass top rather, show up really well. There's some wear right there from when you actuate this sliding lever right here. That's the only sign of wear that I've found on this camera. Other than that, and you know, maybe the viewfinder's gotten dull over the years, but beyond that, I mean, everything is just like literally like a new camera. This is your film advance, which is a little quirky to have it at the bottom, okay, but it's at the bottom of the camera right there, your film advance lever. And it has this button up top here. Initially I thought it was a double exposure button, because when you hit it, it loosens up it allows the film advance to go, but it actually is advancing the film, but it hasn't taken a picture. So this button is purely there to really allow you to advance the film without releasing the shutter. Another function of this button is to, you actually hold the button down, right, while you slide the slider, and you continue to do that. And why would you do that? Because when you do that, what it's doing is it is moving your film counter. So in other words, this film counter didn't automatically reset. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's yeah, you just keep sliding until you get to your correct film counter, whether it's a 36 exposure roll, 24 exposure roll. There was 20 exposure rolls back in the day, but yeah, you just keep doing that until it hits 36, and it actually counts down. Okay, that's another little quirk. Instead of counting up, you know, until you reach 36, it's counting down. Okay, there's a little diamond there. Once you hit the diamond in the film counter window, you take it one more spot until you get to 36, and from that point forward, it'll start counting down. Okay, another thing that I noticed here is when you hit the button, and I get why the button's there a little more now. When you hit the button, it doesn't, the film counter doesn't move. That's another reason I guess it's there. It just disengages the film counter so you can start loading the film. And then when you're ready to actually start taking pictures, then you, of course, use your shutter release. All right, and speaking of the shutter release, it's a leaf shutter. Okay, so flash sync is good all the way through the entire range, excluding bulb, of course. And this camera actually goes up to 1/500th of a second, which is pretty good. And the lens is a 2.8. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier or not. It's a 2.8 removable lens, and although there's no exposure meter in this camera, one really neat trick that they incorporated into this shutter lens combo is that this uses exposure values. Okay, exposure values aren't around that much, aren't used that much anymore, but what it does is, let's say that you are using a light meter, or you're using Sunny 16. Let's just use Sunny 16 for this example. Okay, let's say I've got ISO or ASA 400 film. So what do? I hold down this little, pull down this little knob right there to allow me to, this is how you adjust your shutter or your f-stop. You pull down on this tab and then rotate it, but you also need to pull it on the tab so you can turn to your shutter speed without affecting your f-stop. So you kind of disengage the f-stop. All right, so let's say that I'm using ISO ASA 100 film, like say some Ektar or something like that. The closest to 1/100th of a second I've got is 1/125th. That's fine. And of course, since we're talking about Sunny 16, you set this to f16. Okay, so now this camera is set to f16 at 1/125th, which is close enough for these purposes here. And this is where the neat kind of trick kicks in here. Okay, so these two, the shutter speed and the f-stop, the aperture ring, are now locked together. f16 plus 1/125th. Okay, and that's your Sunny 16. If it's a bright day, you got hard shadows, your exposures will be correct. But let's say you don't want to use f16. So what do you do? Since you got the two locked, which is, by the way, an exposure value of 15, which is shown in the red numbers at the bottom here. Once you set up your aperture and your shutter speed, your exposure value will be determined. You could also use a light meter that says, hey, exposure value is 15, and then you get to 15 however you get there, whether it's, you know, a given one given speed and another given f-stop, however you get there. But okay, so I'm using f16 right now. Let's say I don't want to use f16, so I can turn these two guys together. Let's open it up a couple stops. Now I'm at f8. All right, so turning the f8 automatically turns the shutter speed to 1/500th. Okay, and if I want to go the other way, let's say I want to go f22, now my shutter speed is right at 1/60th. Okay, so you do have a little bit of a range. It looks like you got 2-stop range where you're still going to be in proper exposure. But let's say if we want to use say 400 ISO film, and we put the same deal. We put it on f16, but in this case it's 1/500 or 1/400, which the closest I can get to is 1/500. All right, so now if I want to use something other than f16, so let's say that I'm using some ISO 50 film. So I go to f16 ISO 50, or I'm sorry, shutter speed 50. So now I'm set up for, you know, some Velvia or something 50. All right, if I don't want to use f16, I can open it way up to 5.6, and now my shutter speed jumps to 1/500th of a second. So the point being is, yeah, there's no meter, and some people think that may be a pain to use the camera that way, but once you've got your exposure values locked, then you can, you know, turn and use a different f-stop if you want to open it up a little bit more. So that's a kind of a neat trick, because you don't have to sit there and turn both dials every time. You know, once you've got that exposure locked in there, the dials turn together and they'll compensate for each other's, you know, as they change. Let's open up the back now, okay, and you know, let's get the back open and get some film loaded. All right, so you can see this little sliding, rotating knob here. Okay, this exposes the film back opener. All right, once you kind of slide that, you just push the button, and now the film back is open. And I don't know if you have to or not, but I prefer to do this with everything closed up. And to reveal, just some more great engineering here. You see a nice aluminum sprocketed spool, you know, that moves the film along into the take-up spool. The film reminder has 2 positions. You pull up on it to load up the film. It pulls up all completely out of the way. And let's go ahead and put the film in. All right. Let's see if I can do this, kind of showing you guys how it goes here. All right, so just rotate that till it drops in. Just make sure that you're going across the sprockets there. My beat up roll of film. It says to turn this until you see the slit exposed, like right there. All right. Insert into the slit, and then, oops. And then this is where, going back to this little button up top here, you use that button to release the film advance lever. And let's see, we're gonna get lucky here once again. And again, I'm using this versus the shutter so it doesn't advance my shutter count, which I've already reset. All right, so it looks like it's moving. Just make sure the sprockets are in the sprocket holes of the film, and then close the back and take a look at the rewind knob there, and make sure that it is moving. All right, and we can see that it is. First of all, look at how nice and compact it is. Okay, it folds up really nicely into a small package. You see, basically it fits in the palm of my hand. It's not a big camera at all. It's actually like the perfect size. You literally can put it in your pocket in this folded up configuration. It's got a nice bit of weight to it. It's not heavy by any stretch, but it does feel like a substantial camera, right? All right, so to open it up, you've got a little sliding switch here. Just barely slides. As you pull up on that, it'll open up the camera there and reveal the lens. Now, this being a folding camera, normally folding cameras have a bellows system, which is usually made out of cloth or some kind of cloth with like with a rubber coating on it. This is, as we can see, really it's just metal, okay, which adds to the durability. And the reason I think that they didn't use a bellows system is because a 35 millimeter frame is not that big. Okay, it's folding cameras usually were medium format, and medium format negatives are huge, which means the lens has to be further away from the focal plane, and it just requires a bigger stretch, which in turn requires bellows. This lens barely has to come out. It comes out maybe, I don't know, less than an inch. That it actually pops out from the closed position. Probably about an inch that it is all that's really required for it to pop up. So as you can see, all this is metal. Here's your focusing knob. And again, talking about the engineering, guys, this is a camera that was probably built in the 1954 thereabouts, and the focusing knob is smooth as silk. There aren't any rough spots. There's no grinding. I mean, it's a nice smooth movement from beginning to end, with absolutely no hang-ups at all. And to me, that's amazing that even the grease that they use or whatever held up as long as it has. All right, so that's your focusing knob. Focusing scale in black right here. Depth of field scale is right there. And to round out the features here, guys, there's a green switch down here. Looks like it serves multiple purpose. This little green guy right there, what it does is it allows you to choose between your X sync and your manual. I guess that's the old bulbs that they used to use back in the day. But when you push it and you hear it cranking up a little bit, that's actually your self-timer mode. So when you depress the shutter, you hear the self-timer going off there, and I don't know, 7 to 10 seconds, something like that. It'll take the picture, and you just again rewind, advance the film from that point. Okay, to close the case, or the lens, or I guess it would be called the case, two things. You got to make sure that you're focusing your focus lever is all the way down, which retracts the lens back into the body as much as it can. I'll show you that. You see that? The focusing range. So you press these two buttons on either side, and it closes right up. And this thing is an absolute pleasure to use. It's very easy, very intuitive. You just pull up on that, and although there's like a sliding switch here, you don't really feel it sliding. You just pull up on it, it slides, it opens right up. When you're ready to close, hit it, throw it in your pocket. When you're ready to start taking pictures again, it's just so easy to get to. So well engineered. The body of it, like I said, it shows very little wear. On the front of the lens cover, it's got a stamped with the Kodak kind of embedded in there. And on the back of it, it's in kind of engraved or stamped in there, Kodak Retina camera. I'm pretty sure you won't be able to see that, but it's there, Kodak Retina camera. Guys, that is about it. This camera, like I said, it's a fun camera to use. It takes really good pictures. I'll put up some samples, and that's partially because mostly I guess because the lens it's such a good lens. These Snyder-Kreuznach lenses are very good lenses. They're known for like their medium or large format photography lenses mostly, and I know that they put Snyder-Kreuznachs in a lot of Kodak cameras, even when they started making digital cameras. So yeah, I think I've covered everything. I definitely would grab one of these if you're out looking for something fun to use. No meter, no big deal. Construction is just superb. I mean, it's such a well-built camera, so well engineered. The thing feels like it'll last forever. The shutter action is nice and quiet. There's some professional photographers I read that used to actually use these cameras for weddings, back in the film days. When they would have, like, say, a Nikon F, with the big clunky mirror, that, like inside the chapel, they would use these cameras and they would use their Nikons outside. But that's kind of a testament to how good the optics are. And I've taken a few rolls with this, several rolls with it. I don't know, maybe 8 or 10 or something like that. And you get really good results. You know, for what it is. It's not. You're not going to get a Nikon or Leica type of results, but you do get really good results from it. And like I said, it's an inobtrusive and fun compact camera. And yeah, highly recommend. Go out and get one. Bye, guys.